Alvin Wood stood impatiently in the airport arrivals hall, waiting for Morgan, his wife of 21 years. She was flying to Vancouver, Canada, with her best friend and one of her co-workers to see some 18-year-old pop singer Alvin had never heard of. Morgan begged him to let her go. It was only for a couple of days, and both Lana and Kirsty were married. In addition, throughout their entire life together, Morgan never once gave Alvin a reason to doubt her fidelity. She was 5 and 10 years older than her companions and was the unofficial leader of the group. Alvin knew that the other husbands who were also waiting for their women were counting on Morgan to keep their wives out of trouble during the trip. Alvin smiled from ear to ear when he saw his beautiful wife coming down the escalator. The 5'6" natural blonde looked stunning as always in a tank top and skinny jeans that showed off her slim figure that she's worked hard to maintain. She definitely didn't look like the mother of an 18-year-old college student. However, there was something in Morgan's expression that bothered him. She looked very worried, as did Lana. Morgan's colleague Kirsty, who was the youngest in the group, looked completely relaxed and happy. She briefly whispered something in Morgan's ear, causing Alvin's wife to perk up and look happy too. Alvin ran to his wife, hugged her tightly and kissed her, their tongues touching for a moment. "Oh, baby, I missed you." "Me too." Morgan squeezed him tightly back and whispered in his ear, "Take me home, love, and I'll show you how strong." The ride from the airport was awkward, with Morgan not giving more than 1 or 2 answers to Alvin's questions about the concert and the trip. How was the concert? Great. Was it good to relax with the girls? Not bad. What did you do besides going to the concert? Nothing special. Alvin suspected that something was wrong, but decided to wait until they were home. As he carried her suitcase into the bedroom, he was about to say something when Morgan appeared out of nowhere and hugged him in just her panties. She began to kiss him insistently, while simultaneously pulling off his clothes. Even though they had always had a fairly healthy sex life, Morgan liked to play coy and let Alvin be the instigator, even when it was obvious that she was horny. The fact that she quickly got on her knees, took it out of his pants, and began to caress his manhood, without his request, was very rare. "Oh," Alvin moaned, caressing his wife's long golden hair tied in a ponytail. Morgan caressed him enthusiastically. Alvin had not had such pleasure for many years. He climaxed. She again began to please him, and as soon as he was ready, she demanded hard sex without foreplay. "Yeah, fuck me, baby." "I'm so horny, missing you," Morgan moaned. Even though Alvin sensed warning signs about this change in behavior, he had no intention of denying her request. He gave her everything she asked for, although both the requests and her behavior were not typical for his wife. She swore dirty and was insatiable. Hearing her dirty talk was too much for Alvin, and he felt himself explode inside her with a sigh. After catching his breath, Alvin went to the bathroom to clean up. He heard Morgan pull the covers off the bed. He walked past her as she followed him into the bathroom and closed the door. Alvin got dressed and went downstairs to make tea for his wife. About 20 minutes later, Morgan joined him in the kitchen, and the strange expression appeared on her face again. Still high from the incredible sexual experience, Alvin decided to hold off on asking what had caused such a change in his wife. He trusted her completely and assumed they had gone to a male strip club or something like that. Considering that he sometimes visited such clubs with boys, if Morgan was guilty of something like that, then it was completely in vain. "I love you very much, you know," Morgan said with a wide smile, kissing him on the cheek and taking her tea from his hands. "I love you too, Morgie." Alvin smiled widely and without thinking added, "What led to this? Are you sure you girls behaved well?" He, of course, had in mind a visit to a male striptease and was going to assure her that he did not mind if she watched, but just not touched. However, Morgan's eyes widened, and she turned and ran into the bathroom, slamming the door. "Morgie?" Alvin said calmly, feeling slightly nauseous. He heard her crying loudly behind the closed door. "Please come out. We need to talk about this." He asked her again while counting in his head to cool down. She couldn't be lying, he told himself. Alvin was about to give up when the door opened and Morgan looked at him with red eyes and a running nose. "I'm so sorry, I really screwed up." "I'm sorry." She ran up and hugged Alvin, and without hesitation he hugged her back. Alvin took a breath. "Did you have sex with anyone else during your trip?" Morgan let him go and looked offended by the question. "Of course not. How could you think such a thing? I screwed up big time, though. All of us, especially Kirsty." "Okay, tell me what happened." Morgan shook her head. "I shouldn't tell. I mean, it would kill Wade. Wade was Kirsty's husband." Alvin reached his limit and pointed his finger at her angrily. "Either you tell me what the hell happened, or I leave after telling the other two husbands that they better talk to their wives." "Okay, please calm down." Morgan sobbed. "It's not as bad as you think, at least for me. I promise. Let's go sit in the living room." Alvin sat down in a chair, and Morgan sat on the sofa opposite him, holding a cup of tea in her hands. "I'll tell you everything, but please keep this between us, okay? I don't want to offend anyone or ruin the marriage. Promise me." Alvin snorted. "The only thing I promise is that if you don't tell me, our marriage will probably break down." "What the hell happened in Vancouver?" Morgan frowned, her eyes watering as they spoke. "There were 3 guys sitting behind us, a little younger than Kirsty. They were flirting with us before the show started. We ignored them, but then they bought beer for us girls. By the end of the show, all 6 of us were having a lot of fun. They danced and joked. I mean, it was innocent. Hell, I could have been their mother if I had given birth at 15. "Innocent?" Alvin asked coldly. "Well, for me it was like that. And mainly for Lana. Kirsty was overstepping her bounds and I kept warning her. Anyway, they invited us to dance after the show. Kirsty said yes and I said no. I called a taxi for us and we returned to the hotel. When we entered the room, Kirsty took out a joint that one of the guys gave her. Weed is legal in Canada. The 2 of them started smoking it, or I think it's called toking, and teased me until I tried it too. We were high, except for Kirsty, who was drunk and high, and giggling like teenagers at a sleepover. Then there was a knock on the door. Kirsty told the guys where we were staying, and they showed up with more booze and weed. Alvin felt his face tense as Morgan paused and looked at him with a worried look. He asked, "What happened next?" "After we'd had some fun with them, Kirsty and the guy she'd been flirting with all night started kissing. And before we knew it, they were having sex right in front of us." Morgan shrugged. "Sorry, but I couldn't help but look. The moment my brain responded to the weed, it was the hottest thing I'd ever seen. Kirsty has such a perfect body. She did what I just did to you. So you want me to believe that you and Lana, stoned and drunk, in the presence of 2 other horny guys, watched Kirsty have sex and nothing else happened?" Alvin spat out the last 3 words. Morgan looked down. "No, I let him get a little past second base, but then I stopped him. I swear." Lana let hers go a little further, to the 3rd. "As soon as Kirsty had finished, I kicked all the boys out, and we all cried a lot for what we had done. Al, I know what I did was wrong, but please tell me we can work this out. Nothing like this has ever happened before, and I promise it will never happen again." Alvin stood up and walked away from her. Morgan began to cry and reached for his hand. "Please do not go. You won't leave me, will you?" Alvin pulled away. "No, I won't leave you, but I'm damn angry. I can't believe you could do this to me. I think I need time to cool down and think." He left her crying, walked out the front door, and got into his pickup truck. He checked the time. It was dark night at the Woolly Lamb, so he expected a few of his friends to be there. He would have been there anyway, if it weren't for Morgan returning from her trip. Of course, Mark and Grant were there playing darts. Alvin refused their offer to join the game and just sat quietly drinking beer. After the 4th beer, Mark managed to get Alvin to tell him what was going on. Morgan and her friends got high and fooled around with some young guys in their room. Alvin knew that both of his friends at least knew the other 2 husbands, so he withheld some details. "Mrs. doesn't even drink." "Morgan? Damn," Mark said sympathetically. "Were you fooling around? Was she just kissing or something more?" Grant asked. Alvin gave him a piercing look and said, "Morgan said she only let him get to second base, and I believe her. After so many years of living together, I would understand if she was lying. Hell, 10 years ago at a New Year's party, I got drunk, kissed Tim's wife, and grabbed her ass. It wasn't much worse, but still." "She said they all ended up at second base?" Mark said with a gloomy look. Alvin didn't intend to inform, so he lied. "Morgan said they went a little past second base, but then stopped." "I can't believe you're so calm about this." Mark shook his head. Alvin raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Yes, they kissed, and he felt her breasts through her top, and she always wears a bra. A little higher, so he was probably trying to get into it." Mark laughed coldly. "I forgot that you are almost a boomer. Al, these are the rules of your generation's baseball. Considering Morgan hangs out with younger women, I'm sure she had the new rules in mind." "New rules?" Grant nodded. "Yeah, in case you've been living under a rock, people are much more sexually liberated now, and the new rules reflect that." "Okay, what are these new rules?" Alvin frowned, not knowing whether his friends were trying to mislead him or not. Grant certainly tried, but Mark wouldn't talk about something that serious. Mark took out his phone and typed into the search engine. "Okay, what we knew as second base, groping over clothes, has now become first base. Kissing is a warm-up. Second base is the sensation under clothing. It is debatable whether fingers count, but rubbing or handwork counts." "Handmade?" Alvin exclaimed. Alvin grabbed Mark's phone. "You must be kidding me." Mark let him take the phone. After scrolling it a bit, Alvin saw that his words were true. Alvin swallowed and looked at his two friends. "So, what do you think a little past second base means?" Mark patted Alvin on the shoulder. "Sorry, Al. I guess that means one or both of them probably got to the finish line at the hands of other guys and were pleasured with their mouths. I think you need to make her explain what exactly she was doing." Alvin was almost shaking. He saw that Morgan had texted and was ready to throw down his phone. He held it so tightly after blocking her number that his hand turned red. "Perhaps Morgan was referring to the old rules?" Grant said, "I think the point is that you need to talk to her and find out, like Mark said." "No, these are the new rules," Alvin said through clenched teeth. "That slut Kirsty invited the guys into her room and fucked one right in front of the others." Morgan admitted that watching them made her very horny. "It's logical that they at least went so far as to excite each other," Mark said calmly. "Talk to her, call a taxi, and go home." Alvin nodded and called a taxi. However, not wanting to go home, he dropped off at the Starlight Motel and rented a room. At the store across the street, he bought a bottle of whiskey and continued drinking, trying to figure out what to do. A drunken Alvin decided he needed more information before making any decisions regarding Morgan. He had Kirsty and Waddy's number, which he had gotten 6 months earlier when he and Lana were planning a surprise party for Morgan's 40th birthday. He wrote to Kirsty, "I know what you did, you damn slut. If you don't want me to tell your husband, meet me at the Starlight Motel, room 40. Her immediate reaction was, "Is this Al? I don't know what you're talking about." Alvin snorted and replied, "I know all about your little boy toy and how you put on a sex show." A minute later, she sent, "Give me 20 minutes. It was already close to 40 when Alvin heard a knock. He opened it, and Kirsty appeared in front of him in sweatpants and an old t-shirt. The stunning tall redhead had smudged makeup and bloodshot eyes. She still looked like she could walk the runway as a model. "Alvin, please don't do this. You're not that kind of guy. Don't do this to Morgie," Kirsty begged as soon as the door closed behind her. "Do you think I'm blackmailing you with sex? I rented this room so I wouldn't go home drunk and say something to Morgan that I'd regret because of you. I just want to know the fucking truth. I know what you did. I want to know about Lana and my wife. I don't know for sure, I swear." I was so damn drunk. Kirsty shook her head, her eyes watering. "You couldn't be so drunk that you didn't notice anything." Alvin crossed his arms. "That's what I know. You invited some guys over, drank and smoked weed, started making out with one of them, and out of the blue started having sex with him in front of the others who were just talking. I need you to tell me what happened next." Or do I need to talk to Wade to clear your memory? Okay. Kirsty held out her hands in surrender. The other four definitely kissed. Lana lost her skirt and what appeared to be her bra before Morgie kicked them out. What about my wife? Kirsty shrugged. She was wearing that same dress. Her boyfriend, I don't know what he did to her, but he often touched her feet. Could he have touched her with his fingers? Nod. Could she please his manhood? A shrug, and then a nod. That's all I can say about that night. It's enough. Please, if you tell Wade, it will kill him, and then he will leave me. Please, Al. It was just a one-time thing for all of us. Kirsty folded her hands pleadingly. Alvin couldn't get the image out of his head of some young male pressing his wife's head down so she could please him. The alcohol that entered his system did not help him calm down. No, everything is bad with us. You almost ruined my marriage along with your own just to get something weird. I deserve a fucking payback. Kirsty's eyes widened. Please, no. Nailing me won't fix anything, and Morgie will be heartbroken. Please, Al, you're drunk. I'm not you, Alvin spat. I want you all to tell your husbands the truth, make a huge apology, and ruin our mood. You planned to hide it together. You can plan to confess and fix everything together. Kirsty's eyes widened. Are you crazy? I can't do this. Wade will leave me. If he quits, he quits. It's best if he knows the truth, Alvin snorted. I saw you whispering to Morgan at the airport. It was your idea to lie, so be the first to be damn honest. If you don't want to risk losing your man, you should keep your legs closed. Tell him, or I will do it. Come on, Alvin. Anything but this. The truth will just hurt him, just like the truth about Morgan hurts you. Kirsty cried, clasping her hands. Please, Al, punish me. But don't punish Wade. Don't drag him into this. Alvin rolled his eyes. And how do you propose I punish you? Spank your ass? Kirsty wiped her eyes and smiled. Maybe not spank me. There are other ways to punish me for such disobedience in front of your wife. Maybe you can smooth things over a little, calm your mind, and leave this between us. Have fun and pretend nothing happened. You don't know anything about what happened in that hotel room. If he had been sober, Alvin would have simply thrown her out of the room. However, a drunken Alvin began to think that perhaps he deserved a little revenge. Of course, he wouldn't go too far, maybe just feel those beautiful, firm breasts. Maybe I could agree to that. Kirsty smiled and pulled down her sweatpants, spreading her legs seductively. I think this will be the beginning. This is just one time. I will never cheat on my husband again. How about you taste me and we'll see how much more payback you need? You see how excited I am already? Alvin admired her pale, naked lower half with her long, thin legs. His self-control was gone. Alvin could not resist and began to please her. You made it to second base? Kirsty gasped as Alvin kissed her folds. Oh, damn. You really know what you're doing. Alvin knew from Kirsty's breathing and the movement of her hips that she was probably close. And then he stopped. Stop teasing, you bastard, Kirsty gasped. Fuck me! Yes, please take me, and you will take revenge on your naughty wife. At the mention of wife, Alvin realized the true reason for his stay in this hotel room. He looked at Kirsty, and instead of a sexy redhead who wanted to fuck him, he saw a conniving slut who was causing problems in his marriage. He felt all his anger come back towards both Kirsty and Morgan. Alvin growled. No, you can go to hell, bitch. What? You have to finish me, Kirsty whined. The room is paid for. I'm sure a slut like you will find someone to do it for you. Sorry, I have to go home and tell Morgan we're even, Alvin said as he walked out of the room as Kirsty swore loudly at him. Alvin decided that he still wanted to meet his wife and called a taxi. It was already well after 2 when he was dropped off at the house. He saw that all the lights were on and was glad that he wouldn't have to wake Morgan up. When he entered the house, he saw her in her dressing gown, looking as if she had been crying the entire time he was gone. Alvin Woods, you idiot! I was worried about death. You blocked my messages and calls. I had no idea if you would come home, and now you come stumbling drunk in the middle of the night, she said, standing up as tears ran down her cheeks. I know you're angry, but I'm still your wife. I know, Alvin said irritably. I needed time to think about everything. He looked at how angry Morgan was and thought she had strong nerves when this happened. He planned to wash his face and then face her, keeping what happened to Kirsty a secret. However, being still half drunk, her behavior drove him crazy again. If she wants to be angry, he will give her a reason to be angry. When Morgan came to hug him, Alvin surprised her by lowering his head and kissing her deeply, knowing full well that he would taste Kirsty on his lips. At first she opened her mouth but very quickly closed her lips and tried to move her head away, but Alvin held the back of her head to prolong the kiss. He let go of her when she bit his lip. He let go of her, rubbed his lower lip, which looked like it was about to bleed, and stared at her. Morgan gave him a look of hatred that he had never seen on anyone in all the years they had been together. Her eyes narrowed and her lips curled as she growled. What the hell did you do? Who is she? Alvin feigned surprise. Oh, I don't know what you mean, dear. I just got a little drunk and ended up going a little past second base, just like you. Bull fucking shit you did? Morgan cried. You went and fucked someone after what I did? No, I equalized everything, and it doesn't matter who it was. Unless you want to tell me who you were with so I can rip that bastard's genitals off, Alvin shouted back. Oh, you want to even the odds, Morgan said irritably. Grant is still single, right? Call him, I will please him, and let you kiss me. This will even out everything. I think you're a big enough slut to do that, Alvin said, rolling his eyes. You're just angry that I'm not stupid enough to not know that the rules have changed. What are the rules? For divorce? I'm pretty sure what you did is still considered fucking adultery. Morgan put her hands on her hips. No, sex according to the rules of baseball. Alvin imitated her voice. He only got as far as second base, maybe a little further. He did just that. What are you talking about? Morgan was no longer screaming and looked either worried or confused. You thought I didn't know that the rules of baseball had changed. Second base is no longer the second base it was in school. I know that now means fingering, handwork, and mouth pleasure. Alvin said it in a, yeah, gotcha tone. Who said that? This is complete crap, she snapped. Lots of people, including Kirsty, Alvin said. Morgan's eyes widened. This bitch? Kirsty tried to screw you? I will kill her. She turned and headed towards the bedroom. Alvin followed her. As Morgan shed her robe and put on her jeans, he said, Stop pretending. I know you meant the new rules. Kirsty already told me. His genitals were sticking out, and his hand was under your dress. How would she know? Morgan snapped, crying. Her ass was facing us, and she threw up in the bathroom right after while I was kicking the guys out. She didn't see a damn thing. How could you do this to her? Alvin rolled his eyes again. You still expect me to believe that he just lightly groped you all night while your girlfriend was playing porn star in front of you? Yes, because that's what happened, Morgan said, still crying. We kissed while he felt my breasts through my clothes. We stopped kissing while I watched Kirsty and the other guy, and I spanked his hand when he tried to touch my breasts again. He put his hand on my knee and tried to get under my dress, and I slapped him. He stood like a petulant child and watched his friend reach the finish line. Lana's boyfriend got under her blouse and probably her bra, but she stopped her boyfriend at about the same time I slapped mine. Like I said, one guy ended up on second base with me, and the other guy ended up on third base with Lana. This is what happened. Now tell me what you did. Alvin reluctantly told everything that happened between him and Kirsty. Surprisingly, Morgan sat on the edge of the bed and listened calmly. When he finished, she closed her eyes and shook her head. This fucking bitch. After this trip, I already planned to distance myself from her. She's not worth going to jail for, but I'll tell her to get another job, or I'll tell Wade what she did. Where did you get your stupid idea that second base means pleasuring with your mouth? Alvin sighed and took out his phone. He did a quick search on his browser and then handed her the phone. Morgan's eyebrows rose as she read. This is ridiculous. How could you think that? This is what I meant. I was already upset about what I did, and did you really think I was a complete fraud? Why didn't you ask me? I would have told you. I didn't go into detail because I was ashamed, and still am. To know that you thought so badly of me and did this with another woman. After 20+ years of marriage, you trust me so little? Do you have any idea how painful this is? Sorry, I can't be there for you, and no, I'm not running off to sleep with one of your friends. I'll sleep in Kevin's room. Just leave me alone. Alvin watched her leave and slam the door behind her. He felt like complete crap, and not just because he was starting to sober up. A complete deception. That's what he did, not she. Mark told him to go home and talk to her, but no, he had to make things right. The next day was Sunday, and the sound of Morgan's vacuum cleaner woke Alvin up. He came out of his room wearing only his shorts. Morgan looked through him as if he wasn't there. "Good morning." "Listen," Alvin began, but Morgan turned and carried the vacuum cleaner into the next room. For the rest of the day, she acted as if Alvin was invisible, leaving as soon as he uttered a word in her direction. If he was quiet, she remained in the same room, but did not even blink an eye in his direction. When it was time for dinner, Alvin was surprised that she set the table for two and prepared baked salmon, which was one of his favorite dishes. Alvin sat and ate, glancing at his wife, who deliberately avoided his gaze with an expression that could only be described as cold. Having finished half the portion, Alvin turned and said, "Morgie, this is very tasty, even for you. Thank you for preparing this." "You're welcome," came the sudden, even response from Morgan, who was still facing the wall, although her eyes still slid to the side. "Can you at least let me apologize? I jumped to conclusions and really screwed up. You made a big mistake, and then I screwed up too. I'm so sorry that I thought that way about you and that what I did to Kirsty was despicable. I was drunk and angry and would never have done anything like that sober. I refused to fuck her when she tried so hard to seduce me. That must mean something, right? Morgie, what I'm trying to say is that I had it much worse than you, and I'm probably just as mad at myself as you are. Tell me how to fix everything. I love you and don't want to lose you." Morgan's lip twitched. "I almost left last night. I was going to pack my bag and never look back. I know I made a terrible mistake. You should have seen how terrible I felt. But what you did was much more than what I did. It was mean and deliberate. I love you and I don't want to lose you. But I can't just forget last night." "What are you talking about? Do you want payback now?" Alvin asked an honest question, although he felt a little uneasy at the thought, like when he thought that Morgan had gone much further than she had hinted. "No, I don't think—" "Maybe." Morgan shrugged and looked at him. "I don't want to hurt you, but I think you really owe me." "Consultation? Buy me a new car? I don't know what will make the situation better. Forgive me and tell me that you trust me. That would help." Alvin reached for her hand. "I do forgive you, and I was ready to try to forgive you last night, thinking the worst. I love you. Let me wash the dishes, and you can go relax and watch TV. Would this be a good start?" Morgan smiled for the first time all day. "That's a very good start, especially if you add a foot massage when you're done." "Agreed." "I love you," Alvin said, and leaned down to kiss his wife briefly. They spent the rest of the meal making small talk, looking each other in the face again. When they finished, Morgan poured herself a glass of wine and left Alvin to clean up. Alvin had just started to wash the dishes when the phone rang. He looked and saw that it was Mark. Alvin cursed quietly, remembering that he hadn't contacted his friends to tell them how last night had gone, or hadn't. He quickly wiped his hands and answered. "Hi," Alvin replied. "Damn it, Al. Thank God you picked up," Mark said, speaking very quickly in an excited but at the same time nervous tone. "I don't know how last night went, but you should hear this. Do you know Dally from my work? He lives next door to the Winters. You know, Lana and Roger. Yes, I know that they are neighbors. So thin walls and all that, he just heard loud screams, after which Roger went outside to smoke. Well, as you know, Dally, he went there to find out what was going on. I was damn right. Roger just found out that Lana was recently taken to a place he's never been before. She admitted that she went to third base yesterday, and that's what she really meant. Alvin almost dropped his phone into the dishwater. Can't be. Yes, that's right. Lana admitted everything, and Roger went to clear his head before dealing with it. From what Roger told Dally, it was some crazy shit. All three women were completely naked after playing strip poker with three guys and had a mouth satisfaction contest with all three doing it to different guys at the same time. One couple had sex, and the other switched to having her lie on her back while he pleasured her. The guys didn't have condoms, so Lana let the guy instead fuck her in a place where her husband hadn't been yet, on the bed. When this couple began to prepare for sex, the guy began to vilify her husband, calling him a cunt and all that. This was enough to make her scared and furious, kicking all the guys out of the room. The other two had already shot back anyway. They were sworn to secrecy, although Lana and I guess Morgan were embarrassed to lie, so the one who got caught came up with this thing about baseball and the fact that their husbands were unlikely to know the updated terms. That way, they could come clean without ruining their marriages. Are you sure about this? Dally wasn't playing a prank on you? Alvin felt his face heat up. Damn, he called me right after Roger came back to the house to yell some more. I heard him on Dally's phone calling her a slut and all that. I'm so sorry, Al. Alvin took a couple of deep breaths. I have to go, Mark. Bye. As soon as he hung up, Morgan came into the kitchen, her face almost white, clutching the phone in her hands. She had a forced smile, but her eyes were full of fear. Alvin counted in his head, trying to remain calm. He was more afraid of losing his temper and hurting her than of yelling. He'd never been remotely close to hitting a woman in his life, but he'd never been so angry at anyone before. I take it you just heard from Lana? The look on her face confirmed everything Mark had told him. Oh my God, did Roger call you? Alvin snorted. No, this is Mark. He works with Bob Dally, your friend's neighbor. Morgan started crying. Please, we all drank and everything got out of control. It was one fucking mistake one evening, but I didn't have sex, I swear. Please, I'm so sorry. After 20-plus years of marriage, as you pointed out to me last night, how about you tell me the fucking truth? Alvin said in a forcedly calm voice. Tell me how you ended up lying naked on a bed, about to fuck some stranger while your slut girlfriends were stuffed, before you chickened out at the last moment. Please, Alvin, it wasn't like that. I had no intention of having sex with him at all. Never, I swear. Morgan began to sob, collapsing into her chair at the table. You didn't have intercourse, but you sure as hell had sex, Alvin said coldly, trying to control his emotions. Or have you already forgotten that pleasuring you with your mouth is considered adultery? I fucking panicked, okay? I was so worried I was going to lose you that I was desperate, Morgan said between loud sobs. If you promise not to run away from me again, I'll tell you everything, I swear. After the way you treated me the last couple of days, I can't promise a damn thing. Speak. It took Morgan a few minutes to calm down enough to speak. Indeed, everything happened as I said. We were smoking a joint when some guys came in with bottles of booze and a big hookah. Kirsty used the same phrase she used before when trying to convince me to try weed. She called me Mrs. Hypocrisy and said she felt sorry for you for being married to such a prissy bore. You know, usually people saying things like that don't bother me, but that night for some reason it did. I tried to act relaxed and keep up with everyone who was drinking and smoking to prove Kirsty wrong. Alvin counted in his head. Everything she said sounded convincing, but he too thought she was telling the truth about moving to second base, insisting that it was the old rules. After being together for so long, he felt like he knew her well enough to know when she was lying. Morgan paused to take out a napkin and wipe her cheeks before continuing. I was so drunk that I don't remember all the little details, only that I kept making terrible decision after terrible decision. We played poker. The loser drank first, and I was sure that one guy was cheating, because only us girls lost. I tried to tell him off, but Kirsty looked at me like I was a prude and persuaded me to play strip poker. I felt so young, proving that I could keep up with Kirsty and these young guys, that I just agreed. They had lost their shirts, and maybe one was only in boxers, while all three of us were completely naked. The guys continued to compliment us, look at us. I felt sexy, and I liked it. Once again, Kirsty talked me into agreeing to some stupid bet. If we won, we got dressed, and the guys had to go to the hotel. If we lost, we... Will you please them all with your mouth? Alvin said coldly, crossing his arms. Morgan closed her tear-stained eyes and nodded. My brain was on autopilot. I knew I was crossing the line, but at that moment I didn't care. I remember doing it and how terrible it tasted, but I don't remember why I did it, knowing that I was cheating on you. As soon as I finished, I went to the bathroom and threw up. When I came out, I just wanted to lie down. My legs were unsteady. I collapsed on the bed next to the bathroom and turned around to see both of my friends being fucked from behind. From everything that was happening and from what was in my body, I was so excited and just looked at them both. They both did it in front of my eyes, and it was so erotic that when I felt hands and a warm mouth between my legs, I simply could not resist. Alvin stood up and couldn't look at her. Please, I didn't plan or want this to happen. I didn't understand anything at all. When he stopped and started to climb over me, it was as if my brain suddenly turned on. I told him I couldn't and that I was married. He called me a slut, said something about you, and that he could tell I needed good sex. I hit him hard in the face and flew into a rage. The guy with Lana said something, and I hit him too. I think that's when Lana kind of came to her senses and helped me chase all the guys away, even though Kirsty was mad at us. Morgan waved her hands and burst into sobs again. I felt so bad inside I was going to tell you everything, but Lana and Kirsty convinced me that this would be the end of all our marriages. I told the girls that I was a terrible liar and that I couldn't hide something like that from you. It would eat me up from the inside. Kirsty suggested telling the truth, but not the whole truth, using baseball terms and party so as not to actually lie, but not to say anything. This was all a huge mistake, and I'm sorry, but you know me. You know I love you, and I would never have done anything if I hadn't let Kirsty convince me to screw this up. Like you know, I never would have even kissed that bitch Kirsty on the cheek if I wasn't on edge, Alvin retorted. And because of this you climbed onto the fucking podium, knowing full well that you don't have such high moral principles as you pretended to. Of course I was damn angry. You almost fucked my friend and literally shoved it in my face, Morgan defended herself. You cheated on purpose, but I didn't. At least I didn't run away. Who, if not you, should know about this after more than 20 years of marriage? Alvin said disappointedly. Morgan, do you have any idea why I'm so upset about this? She nodded. I allowed myself to lose control of myself, committed adultery and cheated on you, and I am very sorry that this happened. But it will never happen again, I swear. Please, we can get through this. I'm willing to forget what you did if you do the same. Alvin sighed and sat down opposite his wife. He was with her longer than he had been without her in his life. This made the situation much more difficult. Morgan, I know you're not a drinker, and when I thought about the worst thing you could do, which was pretty close to what actually happened, I plan to forgive you and try to move on. Given my actions last night, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't try to forgive your actions that evening. Morgan started crying again and reached for his hand. Oh, Al, thank you. I will make it up to you, I swear. I'm not finished yet. Alvin pulled his hand back. I'm not going to lie, cheating hurts. That's how I know what I did hurt you. However, that's not why I'm so upset. This is a lie and disrespect. It was right that you confessed to me. You used to be a terrible liar and looked so guilty that I knew it right away. But in the last 2 days, you lied to me twice so convincingly that I was absolutely sure that all that happened was just kissing while he groped your breasts through your dress and bra. People. And on my one and only time, you did it, knowing full well that I would feel like complete crap for getting involved with Kirsty. Hell, I practically humiliated myself to make it up to you. Alvin shook his head. For someone who used to hate lying, you've quickly become damn good at it. Al, I told you why, Morgan pleaded. I was so afraid of losing you. I thought the truth would ruin our marriage. No, it was a lie that did it, Alvin said decisively. Damn it, Morgan. If you had told me the truth even last night when I got home, I think I could have forgiven the first lie, which you said was rather a lie of omission. You lied so heartlessly about the entire event, and I don't think you even feel guilty about it because it was done to save our marriage. Is it true? Morgan didn't answer. Alvin rolled his eyes. How the hell can I trust you? Knowing after all these years how convincingly you can deceive me, can you promise that if you go astray again, you will tell me the truth about it? Morgan began and looked upset. That's not a fair question because I'm not going to go astray anymore. Alvin shook his head. In other words, no. You see, even if I forgive you for cheating, I cannot forgive you for lying. I love you more than anything in the world, but I no longer trust that you will be honest with me. I can't stay married to a woman I don't trust. I lied because I wanted to spare your feelings, because I love you and I thought you loved me the same, Morgan screamed, still crying. Would you leave me because of this? Now you're just lying to yourself. Sorry, I've had enough. Alvin frowned and stood up. It's a good thing Kevin isn't here. I'll probably live with Grant until we sell the house and split everything up. I hope your one wild night was worth it. Goodbye, Morgan. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.